moon photograph. You can go on NASA's website if you want, download them. Any moon will do, any moon photograph on paper. On this one, Michael channel. And we're going to go on that tripod when we're going in there. Over here. Richard Vobes. And we're going to start with this one.
I used to wait to run my dishwasher till it was...
Okay, we're going to start with that one. And then we're going to work all these. And then I'm going to go to the Jordan Peterson series on the Michael Oziak channel because that's who he likes. That's who Richard likes. One of the people. So I'm going to go to his series and use his moon videos on the Jordan Peterson series. So let's, and I've got this tripod set up for looking in at the moon on the photograph. We're going to look at the moon there, maybe look at some moon timelines. And 1 second.
I went for a walk last night. I often do that just to freshen up after a day. And as is occasionally what happens is, as you're out in the public, somebody recognises me and they say, "Oh, hello, Richard. I enjoy your videos," which is very nice. They've become quite popular. Well, on this particular occasion, I was just minding my own business and somebody said to me, "Hey, Richard, have you got a moment?" And I said, "Oh, hello." And I noticed that out of the gloom came this rather unusual looking fella. He had this sort of dark floppy hat, a big long black coat and greyish hair and a sort of long, what would you call it, a Gandalf style beard. And he looked at me and he said to me, "Let me buy you a drink. I want to tell you something." He said, "You've almost got it, but not quite. And I want to tell you the greatest secret." And I thought, oh, okay. So we went into a pub and we bought a couple of ales and he took me to the very back of the pub in one of the darkest alcoves where he said we couldn't be overheard. And we sat down, and as we sat down he reached into a bag and pulled out a board. And he opened this board and I noticed it was a game. It was Monopoly. And I thought, oh, you know what it's like at Christmas when board games come out and Monopoly is one of them and you think, oh, we're going to be here for hours. And he said, "Don't worry, I'll be as quick as I can." So as we sat down and we were drinking and he was bringing out all the paraphernalia that you have, the little silver objects that you're the playing things, you know, there was the top hat and the dog and the train and the iron and a number of others that I can't now remember. And then there were the community chest cards and the other ones, I forget what they're called, and then there was some of the Monopoly money which he was just sorting out into different piles. And I thought, well, this is interesting. And he said to me, he said, "Oh, pick a character, whichever character you like." So I looked down and I thought, actually, the top hat. I quite like the top hat. That would be lovely. So he said, "Do you know, your parents have done you a very big disservice in life." And I said, "Oh, really? What do you mean?" He said, "They informed on you." And I said, "Oh, I don't understand. What do you mean they informed on me?" He said, "When you were born, they informed the government about you. They took you to a building, a government building, and there, some 14 days after you were born, they told a registrar about you, and they gave away your legal title." And I said, "I don't really understand what you mean." They said, "Well, the registrar filled in a certificate, did they not? They filled in your name, and your parents were the informants." I said, "Oh, that sounds rather creepy when you put it like that. You're talking about my birth certificate, aren't you?" He said, "Yes, that's right. And they gave your parents a copy not the original. And he said at that moment, you'd signed away, or effectively they had signed away, their son's legal title. And this was then turned into a bond. And I said, oh. He said, you see, the thing is, at that moment, your legal title on this certificate became a trust fund. The Treasury has now turned this into a trust fund. And at that point, he gave me a certain amount of monopoly money. He said, oh, here's some money for the game. And I said, oh, thanks very much. I can't remember how much he gave me. But he said at that moment, he said, oh, I don't know, the trust fund has probably had £1 million put on it. And because it was bonded, it was floated onto the stock exchange and was earning money. Throughout the rest of your life, this trust fund would earn money.
Okay, so I got pissed off and stopped the Jordan Peterson series because I was getting shut down. And I put these 3 moon videos that I took, I put them on the Clayton Morris series. So I'm going to look around a little bit, see what else I can find.
Money. It would earn huge amounts of money. Check how much you've got there, and I counted out the money. He said, that's like a trust fund, isn't it? That's the trust fund. The bank has just given you a whole load of money. And he said, which character are you playing? I said, oh, the top hat. He said, yes, that's your legal title. He said, the government, and you ever get anything official, it'll come with your name in capitalisation, big capitalisation, the same as on your birth certificate, capitalisation. That's how you know that you are a player in the legal game of life. Your top hat isn't you, is it? I said, well, no, clearly it's just a silver little thing moulded out of metal. He said, exactly. It's not actually you. Just as your legal persona, your name in capitalisation, is not you. And yet it's on all the bits of paper from the bank, from the tax office, all those different bits of paper on your car registration, all those different pieces of paper. That is a representation of you, but it's not actually you. Just as the top hat is not actually you. And I said, oh, okay. He said, so you've got the money from the trust. That is your estate. And we're going to play the game with your estate. He said, do you know much about trust funds? I said, to be honest with you, I don't know very much at all. He said, well, let me explain. You see, when you have a trust, there's a fund, and it's set up by the trustee, in this case, by the Treasury, the government, the Treasury. They put in this money. Now, in order for a trust to work, there must be 2 other people in it. There's 3 maximum, you see. There is the beneficiary, the person that the trust is set up for, which in your case is you. This money that's been put into is yours to do whatever you like with. Oh, I said, that's very nice, thanks very much. He said, but there is also somebody who must administer that, the executor. So the executor is the one who will make sure that things are paid or...
Okay, so this is a daytime moon. I think it turns into night because it's a 1-hour video, and I'm pretty sure from memory that turns into day to night. But I'm going to try a couple different things while we're listening to this conversation.
That you can withdraw money for what you need. And he said, of course, when you're a baby, you cannot be the executor because you are a minor. So until you reach the age of majority, which is 18, your parents would be the executor. They would administer the trust for you, set up by the government. He said, the only thing is, the government, a bit canny like this, they don't actually tell your parents. And so your parents can't tell you that when you're 18, the age of majority, that you could now be the executor. So you go through life feeling that you have no money. You feel that you're a debtor, that you're constantly in debt, that you have to get a job because you need money to pay for the things you need. And yet all the time, there is this trust fund that as you go through life and you get older and the longer it's in there, the more money that it is accruing all the time. There could be, by the time you die, millions upon millions, maybe £50 million are sitting in this trust, unused. He said, in theory, You could walk into a wonderful showroom of Rolls-Royce vehicles. You could, in theory, go up and say, that one, is that the most expensive Rolls-Royce? How much is that? It could be £1 million. You say, at the age of 18. I think I'll have that because I'm in credit. You've got this trust fund. I said, oh. He said, all you need to do is autograph the credit note and the car is yours. But of course the man who's selling you the car will say, hang on a minute, I don't understand. And you'll simply just say, well, take this credit note that I have now put my autograph on, take it to the Treasury, and they will dip into my trust fund and pay you. You'll get your money perfectly fine because I'm in credit. Look at the game. You have this big pile of money. I've just given it to you. That is your trust fund. He said, but in the game of Monopoly, as we go around and you get penalties and you earn money, he said, when you get a penalty, what do you do? And I said, well, I just pay it out of this money. He said, yes, that's what you should do in life. But in life, you don't go to your trust fund. You pay it out of the money you've got a job, and your hard-earned job, you've got this hard-earned cash, real money that you're paying for all the bills and all the taxes, your council tax, your road tax, your fuel tax, you're paying your inland revenue tax, all the taxes you're paying out of your own hard-earned money, and yet you don't need to. You've got this rather plush trust fund, he said. He said, look at it, you can see it. And in the game of Monopoly, that is what you do. I said, oh, yes. I see. He said, but the money is there. He said, yes, but because they don't tell you that you are the executor of the trust, you don't know. You just think you're in debt all the time, and you're having to borrow money to buy a house, and you get a mortgage, and you're paying it all back. You could have got it straight from the trust and not had the bother. I said, wow. He said, but through life, just as you play on this game of Monopoly, there are hazards. And every now and again, because you've not earned enough, or you fell behind with your payments, or the interest rates have gone up, or the way the legal system has worked, it seems to be always against you. You drive your car and you get into a penalty area and there's an infringement, or you park your car and there's a parking ticket, all these sort of things, and you haven't got the money because you haven't worked hard enough, or whatever it is, you could end up with summonses to a court. He said, do you know what a court is? A magistrate's court? And I said, well, yes, I've got an idea. He said, it's just the legal department of the Treasury. They want to make sure that you pay the bills or the infringements or the tickets and all of this, and so they'll administer it. So they'll have a convener, which they call a judge, at the magistrate's court, because all court sessions, all legal things start in a magistrate's court. I said, oh yeah, and you'll be summoned there. Now, of course, if you know that you're the executor, you can just tell them to say, well, just pay it out of the trust fund, but you don't know that, so you end up going to court. And the first thing that happens at court is, of course, they will say something like, for the record, state your name. And this is where the trick is played on you. Because you don't know who you are, you will say, my name is Richard Vobes. And at that moment, they've got you. Because effectively what's happened is you've said, I'm the top hat, or the dog, or the train, or the iron. You've become the player of the game. You've become the fiction. Because their world can only work on the fiction. A real living man cannot enter a real court. They cannot deal with you. So they have to get you to be the legal fiction. And so what happens then is they become the executive, they become the sole beneficiary, and you become a legal representative of the trust, but you end up paying out of your own money. So what you should do, of course, is tell them the truth, because you're not a capitalized version of your name. You're not the top hat. You're not the character that's playing the legal game. Of course you're not. You're a real living man. You're the executor of the estate of the top hat, or the capitalization, the persona of your living man. That's who you are. just as in monopoly. So you would say, well, I'd like to introduce myself. I am the executor and the sole beneficiary of the estate of Richard Vobes, the legal persona. But I am the executor. And as there is only 3 people that can be in a trust, it means the judge or the prosecutor or the Crown Court, the clerk of the court, is the trustee. The role can switch around depending on who is taken the role, but one of them will have that role. They will in fact have a checkbook ready to pay should you announce who you are. Of course most people don't, because they don't know, because this is the greatest secret, he said. But once you've announced who you are and you say, well, I'm the executor of the estate, I'm the executor, I'm the one who controls and administers the top hat. So you're charging this estate the bill of whatever it is, the parking ticket, the inland revenue, the council tax, whatever it is that's not yet been paid. He said, fine, I've no problem paying it. Absolutely. The estate will cough up. Take the money out of the trust. The trust is there. So as the administrator, as the executor, you're the one in charge, because the trustee has to do as you say. And by accepting and admitting and introducing yourself as the executor of the estate and the sole beneficiary, the judge has to be the trustee, and he will have to pay. Well, he won't like that. He'll probably run out of court or say there is no case to answer, because they tend not to like that sort of thing. But that is what it is. You don't need to pay it out of your own money. That's fallacy. You've got this money that's accruing. You can have whatever you like. I said, wow. He said, but they won't like it. And they will do all sorts of things. They will use threats and menaces and potentially try and arrest you and do all sorts of things, because they need you to become the legal persona, the legal person, not a real living man, not the executor. They want you to be the top hat, and then they can play the game against you. So you have to resist at all times, because you are a living man. You are the executor. You didn't ask them to set up the trust. They set up the trust. You're just there to administer it, because you are the executor. So administer your trust, he said, with a wry smile. He said, do you fancy another drink? I said, no, I'll get them. So I went to the bar, thinking about this, buzzing in my head. And when I came back with another glass of ale for us both, 2 glasses of ale, I noticed he was nowhere to be seen. He'd gone. The board had gone, and all the things, except all that was left was the little silver top hat. And I could almost hear the words ringing in the air. You are the executor of the legal estate. The trust is in your name. Grab it. Moment, isn't there? There's a lot of fear in the air. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? I can feel it. There's a lot of fear. I get a lot of emails, as you probably know. I get a lot of emails. I can't keep up with all the emails. People keep sending me links to terrible videos. It scares the living daylights out of me. There's a lot of fear out there. And I don't know whether any of it's true, whether it's all posturing, whether it's sensible even to be looking at it. Maybe it's what they want. We know some of these things are happening. The 15-minute cities, we know they're running trials. They're putting plant pots down the roads. There's all the information coming out that they're going to be surveilling us and monitoring us and listening into us and making sure we have digital IDs and all these other things that we've got. Net zero. Oh, yes, we're going to have to net zero. In fact, no carbon whatsoever. We're going to be digging up the roads and putting in electric points all over the place, and wind farms are going to manage to give you all the electricity you're ever going to need. And there's all of that. And then there's the whole, oh, yeah, they're trying to sort of get you injected with something. It's going to have complications. And then there's all the fear-mongering all over the place about, yes, it's all part of some depopulation plan. We're all going to die in a horrible, agonising and miserable death, if not from myocarditis or some other stroke or something like that. Then, of course, then there's the nuclear thing and the war that's going on between the Ukraine and Russia, and then there's all these tanks being poised and all these pictures, and depending on which website you go on or which YouTube channel or which Rumble channel you'll go on, they're saying this is happening and that's happening, and you've got to stock up with all this necessary stuff, get yourself some water and some dried food and tins of this and a few jolly old bits of biscuits and bully beef and some powdered egg, and everything will be fine. Dig yourself a little bunker, get a paper bag, shove it over your head, you're all going to be okay if it goes tits up. But if it does go tits up, you know, and everything is like nuclear explosion, or what is it? Is it an EMG or EM something or other? This big electronic pulse that's going to wipe out the banks and take away the money, so you can't buy anything online, you can't go to the supermarket, there won't be anything grown, we're all going to starve and be running around with nothing to eat and eating our clothes or the slugs on the floor in the garden, unless they're sort of glowing and radioactive and all of that. And we'll be in a nightmare situation. I mean, there's so much fear at the moment that in the end you start to think, well, what can I do? What can I do? Even if I do store up with a little couple of bottles of water and a tin of beans, what am I supposed, how long will it last? If there's a nuclear fallout, is it going to last for 30 years? Have I got to be in a bunker without sunlight? Should I not just go and buy some razor blades and just sit in the bath and go, oh, well, that's it. Be nice knowing you. See you on the next one. And away you go. You know, in the end, you start to think, hang on, all of this is just too much. It's just too much. In fact, I'm not even going to embrace it. I'm just going to laugh at it. I'm just going to have a good old giggle. I'm going to be hysterical. I'll have a couple of whiskies. I'll be hysterical. If it comes, it comes. It just seems to me like they're ramping up. I mean, apparently this week, or is it next week, sometime soon, we'll get a beep, 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 beep. Oh, is that my phone? Hang on, let's have a little look at the old phone. Oh, look, there's a message from the government telling us that there's a nuclear attack. Don't worry, it's only a test. Don't panic. We're not going to get destroyed this week. No, that'll be next week. But you're just testing so that we can tell you 4 minutes before it lands that you've got time, you know, to get under the floorboards or climb up the chimney or wherever your safe point is. And don't forget to take a tin opener, because you'll never be able to open those tins, especially if there's a nuclear explosion, it blows off all your fingers. You won't be able to use the ring pull. So, simple as that. The thing is, though, you see, I've been thinking about this a little bit more and thinking about the fear and all this sort of stuff, and thinking, yeah, you can keep us down, you can keep us oppressed, you can get us frightened, you'll tell us to stay indoors, we'll do through all of that, and, you know, make sure you've got your little tin hat on, or even one of those tin foil hats. They're always useful, aren't they? They'll protect you from something. And I was thinking to myself, with all this fear-mongering, with all this nonsense, with all this pressure, with all of this that's happening, if the worst comes to pass, let's just imagine, for the sake of argument, that these leaders who have got access to a red button so that these things can fly out and people are going to be blown up left, right and centre and deformed and all the rest of it. Firstly, are they really going to do it? Are they really going to sit there and think, blimey, do you know, when I was young, there were all these wonderful popular songs I used to dance to. People used to get together in groups and they would make love. Not in groups, I'm not talking about that, but, you know, people would get together at parties and they would make love, and they would have families, and there'd be children, they would have schools, and there would be all countryside, and there's trees and butterflies and birds. Are we really going to say goodbye to all of that? Are we really going to say goodbye to the wonderful plays and books and culture and all the expressions of human nature, of desire and love and romance? Are we really going to say goodbye to all of that? Are we really just going to destroy humanity because it is such a wonderful and magical and precious thing? Are we really, really, really going to get rid of that? And what? Go back to those few survivors with their eyes falling out and their ears popped off and their teeth decrepit and their legs hanging off and blood seeping out? Are we really going to have just sort of zombie creatures crawling about? Is that really what we want? Is that the future that we really, really want, when we've got this amazing, beautiful planet in which we could all be very kind? If only we would split the differences, if only we could get on with one another, if only we weren't so bloody greedy about everything all the time. Are we really going to do it? And if the answer is yes, because we don't care, because we're psychopaths, we haven't got an emotion in our body, we're stupid, we just think that we're gods, yes, we're going to do it. And they press the button and all the things go flying and there's explosions and there's these electronic pulses and everything happens and it kicks off and all our houses disappear and some of us crawl out of the rubble and some of us don't. If that's really what does happen, if that's what happens, not all of us are going to die. However many in the world there are, not all of us are going to die. There will be some survivors. There will be some that will come out of that.
And they will come out believing everything that you just said is real and based on some kind of reality. They'll believe in the modern medicine, which is all a lie. They'll believe in science, which is all a lie. They'll believe in the outer space stories you're talking about, which is all a lie. They're going to believe in all these lies. The 50 million, whatever they end up keeping.
And okay, they'll be hungry, they'll be dazed, they'll be thirsty, and they'll be looking amongst each other. Have you got any food? Are you sure? Right, like that. And yes, there will be a little bit of the old punch up, and the strongest will win, and the weakest will suffer. Yes, there'll be all of that, and we know that, and we can be frightened by that, and we can be, oh my God, what have we happened? But rest assured, ladies and gentlemen, that if that does occur, those people who have made it happen, those people, even from the lowest of the low, say the councillors in the councils that have been pushing us into 15-minute cities and net zero and have been on the side of the government for all this tyranny, those people who've got more money than sense, those members of parliament, those lords and ladies, those people in power who had a chance to prevent all of this. Those people who could have said, do you know what, I think maybe we shouldn't get involved, maybe we should just pull all our troops back out, maybe we should just let them get on with that little bit of split difference over there, maybe we should not have let this escalate into a nuclear war or a digital thing. Maybe we shouldn't have oppressed the people. Maybe we shouldn't have injected them with some slimy juice that has made a lot of them just feel very bad and others feel ill and others just... Maybe we shouldn't be doing this because the people who do survive, and there will be those survivors, and yes, they may be a bit anarchistic and amongst themselves, but they know who started this. They'll know who stole their children from them. They'll know who's responsible for killing their parents. They'll know who's disrupted the whole financial institutions, and so they have no money or no trading. And they will regroup, and they will find common cause, and out of those ashes they will grow. But they won't forget. They won't forget who was responsible. So even if you're Richie Sunaks and your Klaus Schwabs and your whoever it is who has the power and the influence, whoever it is, the Bill Gates who bought up loads of land and may have come up with a solution to stick into your arm, whoever it is, all those people, they may have found, oh yeah, we've got our little bunker, we've got our little army of men with guns, we'll be protected. Will you? What are you going to do? Your food will run out. You have no farmers left. You've just killed them all. You've just destroyed the planet. There is this wasteland of nuclear infection everywhere. You're not going to survive either, are you? You idiots. You're not going to survive. And those people who will isolate and know where you live and will find you, I will find you. And when I find you, I will kill you. They will be after you. They will come. And you have nowhere to run. You may think, oh, I'll be all right, I'll be on my island. Well, your private jet's not going to help you anymore because there's nobody making any fuel. All the bank details will have disappeared. Your money will also go. You might have some gold. I've got some gold. Well, who are you going to trade it with? Trade it with, what, another extremely very rich person who happens to be in his own bunker? Well, what are they going to do, eat the gold? It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. They cannot do this because they have nowhere to go and they will only go down the plug hole like the rest of us. They might survive a week or two more, but that's all. So do we really think they're going to do this? Are they really going to kill us? Are they really going to push us into these 15-minute cities? Because at the end of the day, humanity, and I believe strongly in humanity, are going to say, no, do you know what? I don't like this. I don't like you. You're pushing us too far. We're happy to be enslaved to a certain degree. We're happy to sort of go along with it because it actually suits us, because we don't have that great inspirations to take over the world. We just want to have a lovely family. We want to be able to walk into the countryside. We enjoy a few popular songs. We love a little barn dance from here to there. We like to get in bed and have a bit of rumpy.
No, it's too late. You accepted the slavery for 10,000 years. You can't just turn around on it now and say you don't want to be a slave anymore. You can't do that. They're not going to let us.
Pumpy in the sack. We like to enjoy life and see the sun and the moon and the stars and all those wonderful things that this earth gives us. But if you do push us too far, we will not. Even the army, the soldiers, the police, and all these people who are instilled and employed, once there's no money, what do you think they're going to do? What are they going to do? They may well turn those guns round because they know who's cocked up the whole planet, cocked it up and made it into something nasty. And out of...
It's not a planet. So you're not, start there. You don't live on a planet.
all of that, the people will get back together again. They will work it out. They will have a bit of anarchy, yes, that's true, and they'll sort of go, oh, well, we need this. But ultimately, they will sort it out, and we will have learnt that we don't want psychopaths. We don't want idiots who want big egos and take over the world. You might as well hold on to the power that you've got now and not escalate any of this. Because if you do, as Leslie Howard said in Pimpernel Smith, you are doomed, Captain of Murderers. You are doomed. In the studio, because I wanted to show you something that one of my many contributors, emailers, contacts, viewers, I suppose is the word I'm looking for, has sent me. And so I've come up into my studio for my morning monologue, another piece of diatribe that has been wandering around in my head. And I think one of the most important things that we continually need to address and question, which so much of what's going on in the world is focused on, this one premise, which is, in my opinion, completely false.
Okay, just to let you guys know what I'm doing is the first time I ever tried this is I'm cropping from behind and it works really good.
Is the fact that global warming is a catastrophe, in the imminent catastrophe that is about to happen, that we're all going to be warmed up and gobbled up if we don't have a massive response to it. And I think personally, this is, as I say, it's just an opinion, but my life experience, we're supposed to have life experiences now, that's supposed to mean something, isn't it? But my life experience when I go out of the door is not that in the nearly 60 years that I've been on this earth, I know I don't look it, thank you very much, is the fact that actually not anything has happened. All these predictions have been wrong. And surely, this is what I don't really understand, is surely the people who are predicting, oh yes, in 12 years' time we're all going to be swamped in water, we're all going to be dying, and the tide will be coming up from the coast, and the houses will explode, and flames will be all over the place, it's all going to be a nightmare. All of that, surely when they say these things, they must realise that actually they're going to be found out, that as time progresses towards the end of those 12 years, 10 years, whatever it is, when nothing happens, people will go, oh, I thought you said that I've just moved my house up to the top of the hill and I'm looking down and I could have had that lovely palatial building on the seafront. But no. And hang on, isn't the Maldives, weren't they going to disappear about 30 years ago underwater? Are they not still there? Yes, I think they are, actually. I think the lie, the myth that global warming that it's man-made and that it's going to be a catastrophe. I mean, okay, let's put the caveat in. Yes, I know the planet is gently warming up, but it has been doing that since the last ice age. That is a natural process. We had a volcano, didn't we have an eruption fairly recently, only the other day? I forget what little island it was on. Massive, great billowing clouds all over the place, putting into the atmosphere more CO2 than man has done in the last, whatever it is, 20 years. And these are natural phenomena. We need the CO2. Anyway, the point of this is that why I've come up here is because I wanted to show you this. Here we go. This is from a website that somebody sent me called lifesitenews.com. I don't know how true any of this is. It's just an opinion, of course. But they're reporting that Greta Thunberg deletes a 2018 tweet warning that humans will go extinct if the climate isn't fixed by, look, 2023. Hello? Maybe I'm just broadcasting in the last building standing. Maybe there's actually nobody out there, that I'm all on my own here. I'll go out the door and find that the great deluge of water will come gaping through and cast me away in some horrible and horrific fashion. Maybe that's the case, although actually I am in the real world. And unfortunately, life is just going on as normal. Nothing as dramatic as that has actually changed. We're not there climbing in the lifeboats and the rubber dinghies, although, of course, some people are getting in rubber dinghies from France and coming over to the UK only to get free health care and doctors and a nice bit of plush accommodation, and all worryingly of the same sex. So I don't know whether it's a secret cult or something. Maybe it is. Maybe they're just of a certain sexual persuasion and they like being banged up in a hotel. I don't mean literally banged up. Anyway, I'll leave you to interpret that how you like. The main point was Greta, here she is. This is a younger version of her now. She's a little bit older and perhaps wiser. And it says here that climate activist Greta Thunberg has clandestinely, I don't know if that's actually what, that's an adjective, isn't it, deleted a tweet from 2018, claimed that mankind would go extinct unless the humans stopped using fossil fuels. Well, we're still using those fossil fuels. And here is the tweet. Here it is, apparently. This is it. A top climate scientist is warning that climate change will wipe out all humanity unless we stop using fossil fuels over the next 5 years. How dare you? That's apparently what is going on. And then there's a few little comments and stuff. And then on the same website, here we go, look at this. Now, I don't know when this came out. It doesn't have a date, which is irritating. Maybe it does. Here we go. This is from Tuesday, the 31st of January this year. So this is another report on a similar thing. You can see it says opinion at the top, just so you know. I mean, it's somebody's opinion. It's an opinion that I share, I'd like to point out. Climate scientists baffled as to why Antarctica has not warmed in 70 years despite the rising CO2 levels. And look, here we have a picture. Not that that proves anything, because I don't know where it comes from. I think it says there it comes from Shuttlecock or some such place. It's in the magazine. But it goes on to say that scientists are scrambling to explain, I don't think they are, I think they're keeping very quiet about it, to be honest with you, why the continent of the Antarctic has shown net zero warming, yes, for the last 7 decades, and almost certainly much longer. The lack of warming over a significant portion of the Earth undermines the unproven hypothesis that the carbon dioxide humans add to the atmosphere is the main determinant of global warming. So there you go. That's not proof, of course, it's just an opinion, but it does seem that most people, I would think, and I would argue, would be able to say, actually, do you know what, walking out from wherever you are, in whatever different parts of the world, where is it? We've been warned time and time and time and time and time and time again. So many people actually on this desk here. I think I seem to have some sort of, I don't know if this will work. I have no idea because I can't monitor it, but time and time again. Did you get that? I've no idea, I can't hear it. It's a little knob on my desk here in the studio. We've been warned time and time again that this global warming is thing. But the main part of this is, it's fine if that was it. It's just saying, make sure you've got a rubber dinghy in the cupboard and a couple of paddles and a tin of soup, for a tin of pea green soup, of course, if you happen to be out there. like the owl and the pussycat, stuck at sea when the ice melts and all the rest of it. And of course, make sure you've got a fire extinguisher, because you'll need one of those when everything catches fire. Now, last year in the UK, we had one day where temperatures went up to 40 degrees centigrade. Oh my God! And that was pounced on as if that was proof positive that the globe is warming up to a degree it's never been seen before, and everything was going to set fire at 40 degrees, 40 degrees centigrade. Really? Hang on a minute. 100 degrees centigrade is only boiling point. It's only boiling point where water boils. 100 degrees. 40 is even half that. Yeah, it's warm for water. Nice and warm. You go for a nice swim in that. Be lovely. Thanks very much. Maybe a bit too hot. Maybe not. You know, depends if you're a frog slowly boiling up. But the point being that people go on holiday to places warmer than that to lie on the beach and sizzle, don't they? They do that. They go and yet those places are not on fire, naturally. You know, how many places around the world that have that sort of temperature day after day after day are actually on flames all the time, on fire, burning up? No, not very many, in fact. Okay, so you've got places like Australia where the bush does catch fire, although a lot of those are set by troublemakers lighting stuff and being irresponsible, but they do happen, they do occur in nature, and that's part of nature, that's part of resetting, if you like. We have to be careful with that word, don't you? In case you don't add the great word in front of it, because that will suddenly mean, oh yes. But they do that. These bush fires are natural, and it gets rid of all sorts of stuff, and then there's new growth, and that happens. Obviously, if you've built a house nearby the areas that are most likely to set fire, then you have to do something about it. You have to sort of create a barrier, don't you? A sort of fire barrier around your property so it doesn't happen. And I used to know a bloke in Australia who told me that they have a safe box, some sort of box that should a fire happen in the fire season, they can whack. They've got the things like their passports and various other bits and pieces of proof who they are, extra money and things like that in this special box that you grab, put in the car, and you drive far away. They also have these viewing posts that this chap that I used to know used to climb up and would watch. You know, you'd spend a few hours there. People used to do it in the hot season and watching in case there was any bushfires and things like that. People are clever. People are clever. So even if this, you know, the world is slightly warming up and over the next 100 years it's going to go up by 1 degree, oh my God, or even 2 degrees, blimey. Let's hope it doesn't go up by the 3 degrees, because otherwise they'll be coming out of their graves singing all sorts of old 1940s songs. But if it's going to go up by 1 degree or 2 degrees over the next 100 years, we are clever people. We can cope with it. We don't need all this knee-jerk rubbish about heading to net.
We're not that clever. We don't even know what the hell nature is. We misconstrued everything. We're big fucking liars. We lie about everything. Moon photograph. Just looking around in there, trying a couple different lights and shadows, trying a few different things.
Net zero and having to plant windmills all over the place for times when there is no wind, or to have solar panels distributed all over the ground in which would be good farming land. And we need to get the farmers out there. The CO2, which of course is the gas of life, is brilliant for farmers. It means that there are more crops. We need those crops. We need them now. We don't need the regressive policies that the governments across the world are evilly putting out to try and say, oh yes, you can't have fertilizer, we mustn't have all these crops anymore, we mustn't have animals because they fart, oh my God, they fart right up into the atmosphere, and that, you know, animals farting are there to cause chaos and mayhem. I mean, it is totally and utterly ridiculous. And yet the people of this earth, I mean, wake up, people, for goodness sake. I mean, it's like, goodness sake, you know, this is not happening. So one of the things that I think we really need to sort of address, because so many of these stupid policies that are being pushed from a tyrannical government and governments around the world, from places like the WEF and the WHO, who are sort of, well, they do seem to be evil think tanks, don't they? I mean, you know, I'm just saying they seem to be, they may not be, these ex-leaders and these billionaires all coming together to sort of play God and tell us how to run things? Really? Really? I mean, they've never done a proper day's work in their lives, have they? They've no idea what it's like to bring up kids themselves. They've got nannies and other people to do it. They don't seem to have any personal bones in their body. Real. I mean, they, you know, if they want to turn into some technocratic robot and walk around this earth doing their thing on their little private islands and sending their little jets all over the place, it's entirely up to them. I have no problem with that. Do that in your own time, in your own space, but leave the rest of us who have got a life, thank you very much, who like to walk out into the countryside, love to see cows and pigs and sheep and all of that, love to eat them as well, thank you, when they're, you know, I would like to see the industries a little less industrial and less of the chemicals put into animals and things. I'd like to see animal welfare obviously improve. I'm sure most people would like that. Probably the farmers would like to see that themselves. And I would like to see farmers not having to rely on subsidies, that they could go back to small farming and things. I know people would disagree with me on that, but that's fine. We can have a debate about all of that. That's fine. But where I don't think we need to do is to unnecessarily burden farmers and people and technology with these pointless targets to get to something like net zero, where you're trying to get rid of the very gas that is the gas of life that produces flowers growing and plants that the animals need, that we then can get the nutrients from those plants out of the soil, as well as the animals that we eat. Because we are, you know, on the whole, we are carnivores. We don't need to. We've got to burst the myth, this stupid myth that the elites are desperately trying to convince us, because they want us to go into this bug-eating scenario and these stupid little ghettos of 15-minute cities and all of this. We need to take back the responsibility, show them that we're not going to have any of this nonsense, that this policy is rubbish. It's just not worth pursuing. It is a load of old nonsense. It's a false ideology, and it's not going to be of any benefit to the human race. But if they want to do it, that's fine. For one thing, wouldn't it be great if they were role models of this? If they wanted to live in 15-minute cities, why don't they show us how it's done? Let them all live in a 15-minute city.